Campus, right? Guys, so tomorrow is the submission of that first one, part 1. If you've looked at part 2, you'll see that part 2 then involves your research questions. Let me quickly say it involves your, you had a look at that. Research topic, your problem statement, your aim, your research questions, your rationale, your draft research proposal. So for this one, your research tradition or the paradigm, the theory you want to use, and then the literature review that is related to the topic that you are investigating. Guys, I did send a link to my YouTube channel. Obviously, when we are here on Teams, you have access. You can access the meetings via Teams, but YouTube just make it easy. Sorry, I'm drinking tea in the background. I'll turn my camera on as well. Look you in the eye. But the YouTube channel is just easy. So I'll just put every meeting that we have on the YouTube channel. I shared a lot of information on the first one, so please go back to that. Go and listen to that. I think all of you had your MOUs, the 3 of you that sit here. Your MOUs were sorted and handed in, right? Just give me a thumbs up if it was. Remember, it was your responsibility to send it back to campus. Yes. Thank you, Cindy, Petrus, Bongani. Bongani, what do we call you for short? Do we call you the Bongani?
Bongi, please. Thank you. Bongi.
Bongi. And I heard Petrus called Cindy Swasindi. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct.
And what do we call you, Petrus?
Petrus, for now, is good.
You are the only guy amongst these women, hey? It's only you and me.
Yeah, it's only me and you. So normally people will struggle to say Pochisho, so I normally say no. Just call me Petrus will be good.
Yeah. No, we have to stand strong. Listen, we've got a bunch of very intelligent ladies amongst us. Folks, so we had a session on, when was it, Saturday or Friday? I don't know, first session. And on the 30th was Thursday evening. And we said we touch base again. The directive that we had was to say, don't do something that is gonna in any way put you in harm's way when it comes to ethical clearance. You have to receive ethical clearance to do your study. Remember, just to recap quickly, I said avoid the obvious taboo topics and avoid the study that's going to upset people, expose people, make people feel vulnerable, step on toes, make people reluctant to talk. You want them to talk so that you have good data. So think about all of that when you frame your study. Your study is very focused and it's very small. And I think this evening, the takeaway I want you guys to take this evening is a study in the postgrad project is so ridiculously small that you can almost think, but is that enough? It sounds like, mustn't I do more? Guys, you can speak to people that done PhDs and you ask them, listen, what did you do for your PhD? And they said, no, I did this. Then you say, wow, is that all? Did they give you a PhD for that? I want you to understand the way research works is we are building, if you want to see in your mind's eye, a building with bricks and mortar. And those bricks are individual studies. As we build this academic knowledge base, we want it robust, we want it quality, we want it rigorous. And you build that wall by putting your part of the picture into that wall. Your part is that brick. And around you, there's other scholars that fill in the full picture. And that's how it works. Or you can see it if you want like a pixel or a puzzle piece. There's 1,000 piece puzzle. And when you stand back, you see the picture. But when you stand back and there's a piece missing here or there, you're also going to see there's a gap there. That's how important your study is in the greater picture of the academic landscape regarding that topic. But you are not responsible to do everything. You cannot do it. So don't worry if you are in a situation where you feel, but I must do more. No, I want you guys to literally be balanced on a knife point in terms of how narrow and direct your focus is. In fact, at the end of your research report, you are going to write a paragraph that says recommendations for future research. And now you give us, that's fine, Bongi, we're going to finish early. You're going to tell other scholars that they can continue where you left off. All right. So I want to ask the three of you here. We had a chat with the two ladies on the first one. Things were fairly on track. There were governance. Bongi, did you manage to find a theory? Quickly frame the topic of your title for us and tell me what's the theory that you are considering using, Bongi. Petrus, we also said we're going to use qualitative. We're all going to do interpretivism, which means all of us have to do only 3 interviews. Only 3. We will talk about data saturation. Will you achieve data saturation with 3 interviews? Most likely not. What does data saturation mean, Bongi?
I'm not sure, Doctor. Data saturation.
So data saturation means when you ask a question or a couple of questions from your interview schedule, and you start getting the same answers, you've achieved data saturation. In qualitative research, we normally achieve that anything from 7 to 12 interviews. So with 3, which is the minimum from Emirates for you guys, you will not achieve saturation. It means if you had additional interviews, you could still discover new themes. All right. Bongi, please, the floor is yours. Tell us quickly about how you frame your study. Tell me about the theory that you discovered and tell me if you are on track for submission tomorrow.
I'm not on track for submission. My topic, evaluating corporate governance culture and the influence on employee performance.
All right.
And my governance theory, is my section now, stakeholder theory.
Stakeholder theory, all right. And why is that aligned with your study? What is the main takeaway from the stakeholder theory?
So mine is how an organizational culture influences stakeholders, and specifically in this case, the employees.
Employees, all right. What sort of sample are you considering to target?
So like employees of a financial institution, a bank.
Okay. Okay, so you wanna work with people that is affiliated to one organization, right?
Yes, Doctor.
All right, that means you're going to require a gatekeeper's letter as well. Beyond personal consent, you'll also get someone from that organization to sign your gatekeeper's letters. If you say you're not on track, are you saying that you've hit the wall, or are you saying you still have to basically work through the night?
I'm still working through reading articles and putting all my literature review together.
All right.
Yeah.
You're not submission ready, but you haven't. You
not
are still on track.
Ready. Yes. Okay. We can say on track, but not submission ready.
Not submission ready. You know what to do. All right. That sounds good.
Thank you.
Interesting topic. Remember, I don't want you to make a hard connection and an absolute facts between the variables that you're doing there. Remember, I said it's better to avoid bivariable studies because you're talking about correlation, which is more of a statistical construct. But you want to explore perceptions around that, and that you can do qualitatively. But you cannot come to absolute conclusions with a qual study. Just keep that in mind, but I'm happy with the topic. Do you foresee any problems with getting access to your sample?
No, not at all.
Okay, not at all. Guys, and then your instrument that you will use to get your data, and obviously we'll get to that, is something we call an interview schedule. And the people that participate in your study, in a qual study, we call them participants. In quant, it's called respondents, and we call the instrument a questionnaire survey. and we put it down somewhere on the internet and SurveyMonkey and that sort of thing. But you guys are going to use an interview schedule. That's typically 6 or 8 questions that you're going to ask your participants to get your data. You're going to transcribe the data. You're going to analyze the data in what we call a manual thematic content analysis, because you want to identify themes. That's where the thematic comes in. What are the themes that you could discover from this database as a whole? So think about that. Think about now, as you do your literature review, that you don't use dated sources, please. Please keep in mind again that you need to go back to the seminal sources, that you need to look at groundbreaking studies, important studies, historically, how did the discipline change and evolve over time? And what's the current research landscape? What is the current or contemporary academic or scholarly voices around the globe have to say about this topic? Remember, if you are a postgrad researcher or scientist on a topic, you are a global expert. You are supposed to be a subject matter expert on that topic. You are supposed to be able to converse and to debate and to chat and to talk about this topic, because you are an expert of it. And of course, you become an expert by submerging yourself in the literature. All right. Let's do ladies first again. Cindy, quickly tell me, you had the, I made a note here, construction industry board, governance, public sector. Just frame your study for us again, Cindy. Tell me about a possible theory that you've identified.
Okay, so from the last time that we spoke, I decided to like change things up a bit.
Yes.
So my topic is an exploration of governance professionals' perception of the factors contributing to board effectiveness in selected South African state-owned entities.
All right, that's a mouthful. You could probably make it a bit more elegant and so on, but what exactly, in a nutshell, in layman's terms, is your study? What is the gap that you want to discover? What's the unknown in your study?
Basically, what I wanted to discover is what the governance professionals think would be the contributing factors for board effectiveness.
All right, and who are these governance professionals?
So that would be your board secretariats, there would be your general counsels, but just people who are in the governance sector, basically.
All right, and you can bring in King Voorlekker and, you know, the whole governance story. Why public entities? Why not private?
Because I feel like I've seen a lot of problems in the public entities a lot lately, actually. Like with your IDAC and your PICs, and I feel like that's the talk of the town lately, rather than private entities. And the other thing is, I'm also in the public space, so that is why I'd like to dive into the public entity rather than private.
All right, you know, it's a slippery slope, and you know you have to be careful how you present. Completely objective. I don't want you to do anything that puts you in harm's way. I also don't want you to be, I think, similar to we spoke to Mamela. I don't want you to be accused of doing the study to prove a point that you wanted to prove, or drive your agenda, or result in some outcome that you want it to result in. Do you hear what I'm saying? So be careful. It's an interesting study, but you wanna treat it completely scientifically objective, right? That's important. We want to hear what these people say, and you want to report honestly and transparently on what your participants as experts have to say. And your voice, as it were, is of no concern. You are the person that objectively and scientifically get the data and report to us, the readers, what these participants shared. Are you happy with that? You understand my concern and the fact that you need to be careful with this. Don't open cans of worms that you shouldn't. Keep it professional.
Okay.
And keep that academic professional sort of stance throughout your study. Happy with that? Does it make sense?
Yes, happy. Thank you.
Sometimes there's studies that, I mean, if I have a student now that says they want to investigate Eskom's board, I wouldn't say do that if you're an honest student, not even a master's. I would say leave it for your PhD. You're going to make lots of enemies, and you're going to get death threats, etc., etc. Hear what I'm saying? Hey, hear what I'm saying? So keep it light, not loaded. Theory. What theory did you discover?
So the theory that I had discovered was not me forgetting that theory now.
Okay, but you have a theory. And remember the theory. It's normally called a theory. It's called a theory distinctively, and most of the times, 99 out of 100 times, it's got a person's name in it, like Maslow's theory of hierarchies. Don't give me a model per se or something. You can use the model, but you can use it in your literature review. Look for a real theory. All right, you have a theory and you've got something that you think is aligned with your study.
Yes.
And it allows you to make certain assumptions, all right? So Maslow's theory, just quickly again, Petrus, for your, if you haven't listened to my previous one, a theory that is aligned with our study allows us to work from a certain starting point. It allows us to accept certain facts as truth because a theory is regarded as truth. So Maslow's theory of hierarchy says people want higher level needs or basic level needs met before they are interested in higher level stuff. So in other words, people that don't have food, water, shelter, that sort of thing will not be interested in going to the movies, but they're starving. So they want to first address those basic needs, and then people are interested in other stuff like intellectual stimulation and so on. So that's a theory that allows me to understand human behavior. Most of the theories that you guys are going to work with is social theories. It's about explaining and understanding what to expect from humans, how humans will typically behave. That's what the theories tells us. All right. So, and that's the sort of theory that I want you guys to look at. Don't look at models or Porter's models. Use that in the literature, but look for a theory, a hardcore theory. How many theories? One is enough, guys. Just one. One theory, more than enough. You're going to write a page or so where you tell me about the theory. Where did the theory originate? How was the theory used? How is it used today? And how do your theory align with your study? And what assumptions does your theory allow you to make? What starting point does your theory allow you to make regarding this topic that you are looking at? All right, so Cindy, you good? You remembered or you forgot the name of your theory for the moment, but you are on track. Petrus, let's hear from you. We haven't spoken prior. What is your study looking at topic-wise? And have you managed to identify a suitable theory?
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, my topic is about the relationship between King 4 governance outcome disclosures and the funding sustainability on NPOs, NGOs, and non-profit companies.
All right. And again, you cannot make any absolute conclusions. You can just qualitatively explore perceptions regarding the topic. You understand that? Nee? As I explained now to your classmate earlier, qualitative studies doesn't allow us to come to any conclusive or absolute statements, but it allows us to get into people's heads and to ask people, what do you think? What do people on the ground think? And that's very important, guys. When people do a feasibility study, they ask people, what do you think? What do people think? It's important. So perceptions and people's realities, even though they are not necessarily based in absolute truth, tells us what stakeholders have to say about something. Let me give an example, guys, on qualitative stakeholders. You are a student or a learner at Emirates. You're a scientist at Emirates. If we say there's something here that we want to investigate, maybe the way classes are presented, or we're saying, listen, the online model, or we want to discuss fees, or we want to discuss admission criteria. Immediately you can think, there's at least 3 stakeholder groups that I can think of. There's obviously the learners themselves. That's a stakeholder group that has something to say about this topic. There's the lecturers, the teachers, they've got something to say about it. And then maybe there's people paying the bills. If it's you yourself, that's one thing. Maybe you've got bursaries. Maybe there's parents that pay for your studies. They have a stake in this story. Can you see that stakeholders, depending on what side of the fence they sit, can have different views on the same topic? If we say fuel prices are rising on Wednesday, wholesalers might have a certain take on that as stakeholders. Retailers might have a different take on that. Consumers, you and I, have a different take on that. So different stakeholders have different takes on something. They have different thoughts, different perceptions about something. I don't want you guys to split your stakeholders and compare. Please, you don't have enough. Don't dilute your sample and say you want to compare what employees say and what does employers say or something like that. Don't do that. You've only got 3 people to interview. If you dilute your sample to do a comparative analysis, you need much more. You maybe need 15 or 20 so that you've got enough people in each sample with those opposing stakeholder sides. You've got that. Please make a note. A uniform sample, and you want to get their perceptions. All right. So you want to get the perceptions around these things and King 4 and finance. What is your theory? Have you identified something, and who are you going to target, Petrus?
Okay, my target and my theory will be based on stakeholders being the funders themselves and the fundee or the sponsee, and would be the people, the employees or volunteers of the non-profit companies.
Okay.
So those
who are you going to target for data?
For data will be the funders as well as the volunteers. The funders will give me information regarding why or what is it that they are looking for in order for them to fund non-profit companies. I
would stick with, remember what I said just now, I would stick with one group. You've only got 3 interviews, only 3. Okay. So you're not going to get good data if you dilute your sample too much. If you speak to funders only as one stakeholder group, that's fine. It's better. Don't speak to different people, because you speak to one person. What are you going to really find out from that? That's really a serious directive I want to give you. You can speak to only one stakeholder group, and then you can say for future studies, you recommend that these other stakeholders are also investigated and are also queried. Does that make sense, Petrus? Theory, have you discovered a social theory that you can use? A theory, like Maslow's theory?
Not yet, unfortunately.
Right. You guys are heading in what time tomorrow? 12 o'clock? Yeah,
23:59, 23:59, yes.
Yeah. Listen, folks, please don't be late. There might be a bottleneck on the server. What happens if you hand in late? Penalty of how much? Does anyone know?
30% or something. 30%.
15. 15. What happens if you hand in 24 hours late?
0.
0. Guys, so please don't wait till 23:58 tomorrow evening before you submit. The system's going to flag you late if you are 1 second late. The system's going to flag you as a late submission and subtract 15%. Guys, I think it's difficult to get this module started. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. Please, I don't want you to feel that it's overwhelming. Many students, hundreds, thousands have done this before you successfully. All of you have an exactly equal and a fighting chance to make a success here. If you do your part, please take absolute responsibility with this project. Don't let anyone or anything stop you from attaining this goal. I'm going to support you. I'm going to do it, but you're going to do the work, not me. I'm there to guide you lightly. I'm there to bounce. I'm there to give you advice on what to do, and you are the driving force in doing this. So don't submit late tomorrow evening. Make sure that you submit on ARC on the correct link. Don't submit on the wrong link or anything funny. Make sure everything goes in there. Your reference list, 100%. I don't want to see any deviations. Remember, I'm reiterating, 5% or 10%, I will subtract that because you guys are postgrads. You are the cream of the crop on Emirates. Do not throw away marks with referencing penalties. If I detect plagiarism, I'm not going to mark your work. I stop marking right there, and you get referred for a plagiarism offense, guys, which can mean the end of your academic career, as it were, depending on the level of offense that you do with plagiarism. So please don't do it. And then, of course, AI, it's not your friend. Yes, AI to help you order your thoughts and yeah, long AI declarations, exactly how you used it. Guys, I'm going to nail you if AI does your work and it's not you doing the work. I am going to severely punish you because the marks are going to you, not to the AI engine. So AI is in academic writing where you are now. AI is not your friend. I promise you. Lots of adjudications last year. I had lots of zeros. I had lots of students capped at a maximum of 50 because of improper AI usage. So we've got a zero tolerance approach on that. You are there to do the work, not AI. Guys, please, I can't be serious enough about that. All right, Petrus, are you on track? Will you be able to submit something workable tomorrow evening?
Yes, I do have a draft. It's only for me to just clean it tomorrow and then submit. I will be able to submit before.
All right. And then, like I said, please consider speaking only to funders or one stakeholder group. Don't split the group up. Don't add that complexity. And because you only have 3 people to interview, you're not going to get data. You're not going to be able to remember. You want to identify synergies. You want to identify the patterns or the themes that this group talks about. Now, if you only stick to 1 or 2 people, you're not going to be able to identify those patterns or those synergies or those touching points. Do you understand why I'm saying don't split your sample into different stakeholder groups? Stick with one stakeholder group, which is going to give you a better chance to say, all right, in this group of participants, in all my interviews, I can identify these prominent themes that were raised by my participants. Otherwise, you're going to battle tremendously to identify those themes. Guys, is there anything else? Any questions that you want to ask? I want the cover page. I want a table of contents. Detailed table of contents with numbers and page numbers. Please don't use extravagant font sizes. Don't use color. I don't want to see color. I don't want to see all sorts of funny thingies. I want a professional looking paper. Cover page, table of contents, headings, justified text, line spacing, size of font as Emirates briefs you to use the size of font. reference list at the end, references alphabetically ordered, 100% aligning to the 2026 Harvard Anglia Adapted for Emeritus Referencing Guide. It's in the library. Guys, every bracket, every full stop, every italic, everything I'm going to look at, and I'm going to sit there. The minimum I'm going to take off if I see a referencing error is 5%. If there's something that doesn't sit good, like using et al. In a reference list or doing something funny, I'm going to take off 10%. We're not using ampersand. We write the word and out. We don't use brackets and so on. Look at your referencing guide. It's all there. Guys, don't shoot yourself in the foot and throw away marks. Let's get this going so that we have something to work with, and then we shape that and fine-tune and streamline that submission to put you on a trajectory that you can be successful in your second and subsequent submissions, and ultimately submit a research report in a few months' time that can get you to obtain your qualification. Any questions, observations, uncertainties, anything else you want to say? Guys, you're probably going to work through tonight. All the best. Yes. Anything else that anyone wants to say? If not, I'm happy to adjourn the meeting and leave you to it. Yep.
For me, it will just be an advice on in-text referencing.
Do you have a copy of the referencing guide from the library?
Yes, we do. I'm not sure if I could reference our previous studies, because there are times where you feel you want to in-text reference, and then when your paper comes back, you are told that no, you are not supposed to in-text reference there. Maybe you were supposed to ventilate more, and then maybe at the later stage, then there's a space where you put in-text reference. So that was our difficulty to say when is the correct time to in-text reference. Just an advice, not but just an advice to say, if you listen to yourself, or you've got your voice, and then you feel this is the right one, but just an advice.
All right. So a good academic submission contains a relatively large number of academic references. If you want the quality of your work to be higher, then in actual fact, you're going to include more citations, scholarly references. Whenever you need to give acknowledgement to someone, you have to use a reference. Your own voice, you are bringing things together. So don't self-reference your previous work or previous studies. Don't do that. Reference, give credit to the scholars that you use to formulate arguments, and don't leave anything. Don't put any statements or arguments in there that you've borrowed or derived from others people's work without giving acknowledgement to them. So in your final report, you're going to have lots of references, pages and pages of references, right? So your work's going to be literally littered with references. In a literature review, there's a lot of references. So your own voice? No. As an academic, you bring together what the scholarly world has to say, and you give credit to those authors. Maybe that's not the answer you want to hear, but that's the way you do it. There's a lot of work, Petrus, that they've put on the module page on ARC for you. I showed it in my first video. Please go and look at that. They've given you guys extensive guidance there under the content tab on the module page. If you go down to assessment support, there's something here about how to write a literature review, and it's going to help you a lot. All right, go to your module page. Look at. There's 3 things that they are giving you here under assessment support under the content tab. That's going to help you with your writing as well. All right, happy?
Happy.
All right, Cindy, you good to go?
Yes, it's going to be a very long night, but I'm good to go.
It's going to be a long night, you're right. Yeah, have some coffee and snacks. Okay, guys, take care. Don't forget to submit tomorrow evening. And have a good week. We'll speak soon. Cheers. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you and pleasure, Doctor.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.